The rain hammered against the corrugated iron roof of the observatory, a relentless percussion that mirrored the insistent drumming in my own head. I'd been staring at this photograph for nearly 8 hours, the grainy black and white image depicting a man standing beside a peculiar contraption, a tangle of copper wires, vacuum tubes, and what looked suspiciously like repurposed bicycle wheels. The date scrawled on the back, 1938, was almost as unsettling as the figure himself, Dr. Elias Thorne. And the question that had consumed me for months wasn't just whether he succeeded in his audacious ambition to travel through time, but why his existence had been so meticulously erased from history. My name is Daniel Hayes, and I'm a historical anomaly researcher. Basically, I hunt for things that don't fit: lost documents, forgotten inventors, unexplained events, the kind of stuff official records conveniently ignore. The Curious Investigator series thrives on these gaps, these whispers in the archives, and Thorne was a particularly potent whisper. The initial lead had come from Professor Alastair Finch, an emeritus physicist at Cambridge who, to put it mildly, distrusted authority. He'd stumbled upon fragments of Thorne's research while cataloguing the papers of a deceased colleague, a man named Silas Blackwood, a brilliant but deeply paranoid inventor obsessed with temporal mechanics. Blackwood had been working alongside Thorne in the late 1930s, and Finch believed that the entire project had been deliberately suppressed by government agencies, likely fearing the potential ramifications of time travel. Blackwood's notes were maddeningly cryptic, filled with diagrams labeled phase displacement field and equations involving complex Riemannian geometry. He spoke repeatedly of chronometric resonance and the need to align oneself with the temporal stream. What was clear, however, was that Thorne wasn't interested in simply observing the past. He believed, and Blackwood documented this with alarming detail, that it could be asterisk-influenced. The photograph itself was found tucked away within a locked drawer in Blackwood's study, a drawer that had been meticulously emptied and resealed by someone who clearly wanted to bury Thorne's legacy. The image was taken by a young journalist named Arthur Davies, who'd been investigating rumors of an eccentric scientist working on impossible machines near the remote village of Hollow Creek in West Virginia. Davies claimed he'd witnessed Thorne activating his device, a process that involved a blinding flash of light and a disconcerting ripple in the air. The photograph, taken immediately afterwards, captured Thorne looking bewildered, clutching a small, intricately carved wooden bird. Hollow Creek was a place clinging to the edges of existence, a town steeped in Appalachian folklore and shrouded in a perpetual mist. It felt like stepping back into another century. I spent 2 weeks there, interviewing locals, mostly elderly men who remembered Thorne vaguely, often referring to him as the Tinker or the Strange One. The consensus was that he was a harmless recluse, obsessed with his work and prone to disappearing for days at a time. However, several older women spoke of unsettling occurrences around the observatory, flickering lights, disembodied voices, and once, a fleeting glimpse of a man in unfamiliar clothing standing amongst the trees. The observatory itself was a crumbling testament to Thorne's ambition. It stood on a desolate hilltop overlooking the valley, its dome rusted and scarred by weather. Inside, I found remnants of his experiments, shattered vacuum tubes, coils of wire, and meticulously annotated notebooks filled with calculations that bordered on madness. What struck me most was the sheer scale of the project. Thorne hadn't been building a simple device, he'd been attempting to manipulate space-time itself. I began to piece together Thorne's theory. He believed time wasn't linear, but rather a vast, interconnected web. He theorized that by generating a powerful electromagnetic field, the phase displacement field, he could create a localized distortion in this temporal fabric, allowing him to momentarily shift himself and his surroundings into another point in time. The bicycle wheels weren't just for show, they were integral components of his device, acting as stabilizers within the fluctuating field. But why the erasure? That was the core of the mystery. Finch's theory about government intervention seemed plausible. Thorne's notes hinted at a demonstration, a brief, controlled jump to 1903, where he'd allegedly recovered a lost manuscript by Edgar Allan Poe. The authorities, it appeared, deemed this too dangerous, too unpredictable. Blackwood, already paranoid, became convinced that the agency was actively attempting to sabotage Thorne's work. He documented everything in increasingly frantic detail, culminating in a chilling entry describing a shadow figure observing him from the observatory's windows. Then there were the inconsistencies. Davies' account of the flash and ripple was corroborated by several locals who reported experiencing disorientation and nausea during Thorne's experiments. But no one ever saw Thorne travel through time. No historical records mentioned his 1903 excursion. He simply vanished. And that's when I started to suspect something more sinister than a simple cover-up. My research led me to the Blackwood family archives, located in a crumbling estate just outside Hollow Creek. The archive contained not only Blackwood's papers, but also a collection of documents pertaining to a secret organization known as Chronos. Chronos was an early 20th century group dedicated to exploring the possibilities of temporal manipulation, a group that predated, and it seemed, directly influenced Thorne's work. The records revealed that Chronos wasn't just interested in scientific advancement, they were obsessed with controlling history. They believed that by subtly altering past events, they could shape the future to their liking. Thorne had been recruited into Chronos, initially as a brilliant engineer, but he quickly became disillusioned with their methods, their willingness to manipulate historical figures, to rewrite narratives for political gain. He attempted to pull out, and that's when Chronos decided to silence him permanently. The wooden bird in the photograph wasn't just an artifact, it was a temporal anchor, a device designed to stabilize Thorne's presence in another time period. Chronos realized that if Thorne could successfully travel through time, he would pose a threat to their control. They orchestrated his disappearance, not by simply silencing him, but by ensuring that no one ever found him, effectively erasing him from the timeline. But there was one crucial detail missing from all the documentation: the destination of Thorne's final journey. Blackwood's last entry detailed a critical resonance point, a specific date and time where Thorne intended to make his ultimate jump. The date was July 28, 1938, the day of the Hindenburg disaster. It seemed absurd at first. Why would Thorne travel back in time to witness the destruction of a German airship? But then I realized the significance of the wooden bird. It wasn't just an anchor, it was a key, a device capable of not only stabilizing temporal shifts, but also subtly influencing them. Chronos, through Thorne, hadn't been trying to prevent the Hindenburg disaster. They had been attempting to cause it. I discovered that Chronos believed the Hindenburg's fiery demise would serve as a catalyst for societal change, an event so dramatic and unsettling that it would shake Europe out of its complacency and pave the way for their desired geopolitical outcomes. Thorne, horrified by their plan, attempted to intervene, using the wooden bird to disrupt the resonance point. But he was too late. Chronos had anticipated his move, and they neutralized him, not through violence, but through a precise temporal manipulation, sending him hurtling into an unknown point in time, effectively erasing him from existence. The photograph wasn't just a snapshot of Thorne, it was a paradox, a visual representation of his attempted defiance, frozen forever in a moment before he vanished. The ripples in the air Davies witnessed weren't simply a side effect of the device. They were the echoes of Chronos' intervention, attempting to rewrite reality itself. I spent months tracking down every trace of Thorne's work, poring over Blackwood's notes, analyzing the photographs, and piecing together the fragmented narrative. I even managed to reconstruct Thorne's phase displacement field equations, a feat that required me to collaborate with Finch, who, despite his initial skepticism, was now convinced of the truth. But Thorne remained elusive. He hadn't been killed, he'd simply ceased to exist in this timeline. The question wasn't whether he traveled through time, it was where he went. And that's where the mystery truly lies, a temporal echo trapped somewhere within the vastness of the past, a testament to humanity's obsession with control and the terrifying potential consequences of tampering with the fabric of reality. The rain continues to fall outside, drumming against the observatory roof. I look at the photograph one last time at Dr. Elias Thorne standing beside his impossible machine. He represents not just a failed experiment in time travel, but a stark warning, a reminder that some doors are best left unopened, some secrets best left undisturbed. The journey to understand Thorne's fate has led me to believe that he is still out there, somewhere in the currents of time, a silent observer, perhaps even a participant in events beyond our comprehension. And I suspect, with a chilling certainty, that his story isn't truly over. It's merely paused, waiting for someone else to pick up where he left off. The truth about Thorne, and possibly the very nature of time itself, remains elusive, hidden within the tangled threads of history, a puzzle whose solution may be forever beyond our grasp. Perhaps that is the most profound discovery of all. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only contemplated.